Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode in Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Flash. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up with Team Flash as they're continuing their investigation into the Black Flames. In fact, the Black Flames out of nowhere attack Frost. But then that doesn't fit the pattern because first and foremost, it didn't kill her. It just hurt her and bounced. But throughout the episode, they start thinking like, right, this thing is attracted to her and they want to start using her as bait. In fact, it's actually Frost's decision, the choice to make that decision in the beginning. But obviously looking at all the victims, none of it matches up. It's like, right, these are people who mourned a loss recently, which with what we get at the end of the episode kind of makes a lot of sense character-wise. But the fact is that each character is someone who went through something, who lost somebody. But the difference is, like, one of the people already went through grief counseling for it and already started moving on. And then even Chester's situation, his dad died years ago, so why now? Like, I was like, maybe some of that stuff with his dad might have bubbled to the surface because of the recent victims, but still, like, his grief with his dad was dealt with. It's just like this thing manifested it, and it knew that grief could be a means of attacking him. So, like, it's not even recent death and recent grief. It's so what's going on here? And even Frost, she hasn't really lost anyone, but it turns out it's after Frost because it's actually attracted to her cryo powers because it plans on actually using her cryo powers as a recharge or fuel. So it makes me wonder, all this, like, does it feed off of, it's feeding off of people, but to our knowledge, our last victim, the third victim, was the last person to get killed by it because it didn't get Chester. And so it needs to recharge on someone, and probably like a renewable source would be Frost. She wouldn't be a, oh, I ate you and I'm done thing, whereas everyone else, it is like, oh, I devour you and you're done. But it's literally going to try and feed off of her energy, and she wants to use herself as bait. In fact, she goes to her mom, Carla, for help, which everyone's reluctantly on board except for Barry. Barry's even more reluctantly not on board, to the point he's like, no, let's not do this, because with everything that's going on with Iris right now, because it turns out her time sickness isn't just like a virus in her. Whatever it is, it's radiating and coming from her. So, having no idea what that is, Dion blaming himself because he's like, right, I undid your treatment back during Armageddon. But it's like, right, all that was proof to prove, like, right, my dad didn't die and that Barry was innocent of all the stuff he was being blamed for. So, it was worth it in the end. But I guess, like, right, Dion doing that, like, undid all the treatments, and so it left her in a vulnerable enough state. Now it's expedited to the point that his treatments aren't enough to fully keep it at bay, and his latest thing to try and keep it in check seemed to work, but as the episode progressed, we saw cracks in it. We'll get to that soon enough. But finishing up with Team Flash and everything, let's focus on that. Once again, Barry was not too keen on the whole idea, but for Frost, it's like, right, this is what we do. We sacrifice, like, we're heroes. Like, it's, if we, we might get hurt in the process, but it's about saving people and doing the right thing, And that speaks volumes, that just further proof of just how much Frost has grown. It's like, right, I'm a hero, and we saved the day, obviously thinking back to, like, all the time she had to go, was that last season? Yeah, all the stuff with Kramer where, like, Kramer was bringing up her past history and stuff and all the things that she did. But now it is a situation of, despite all that, like, she has grown, she has changed, she's become a hero, and now it's like, right, we've got to save people, do whatever it takes to save people, and, maybe a little injury and sacrifice might be necessary as a hero. So Barry was reluctant, but it's also because he was worried about Iris, because even Frost was like, right, you think Iris is just going to sit back, she's going to help out Tinya and everything? It's like, right, so he's reluctant, but it's like, fine, let's do it. But when the time came, they set everything up. They're amplifying the cryo signature from Frost so that they can attract the Black Flame, but it stops. Now, that might be important. It's like, right, I tried to get to you before, and I might have attacked you, but it's like, right, I'm more in control now, and I'm stopping myself. And so Frost attacks it, and so it lashes back and attacks her. Luckily, that's all it did. It didn't burn her, it didn't kill her. Obviously, Caitlyn's freaking out because it's like, right, you could have died. And her mom is still like, no, it can work. The spear we're planning on containing it in, it might not have worked. But at the very least, it's because we never got a chance to really check it out. So it still is a viable option. We just need to let it get closer. The only reason why it didn't work is because it stopped. But that is the thing. Continuously, we still know nothing about this thing. Like, why it operates. Because even Barry's like, did it stop because it knows what we're planning? They know this thing is conscious enough, but like, does it have a mind? Like, the thought was like, is it running on like some animalistic instinct and desire? Maybe there's something of that there, but maybe there's also a human like, they don't think it's a human, but at points it is interesting that you kept seeing a face, but it was like a skull face, just representing death. But the question is, how does its circumstances fully work, and why is it, is it deeper reasons why it came after Frost specifically and didn't kill her like it did everyone else? Obviously, it's not a grief thing. Yes, they're talking about an energy thing, but it's still, there's something else there. Maybe this thing is, in the long run. Yeah, let's jump ahead to it. It does seem like by the end we find out that this thing is potentially Ronnie. So, someone had suggested that last episode, which I kind of saw. Like, okay, I was like, I can see a similarity between this black flame and everything and Ronnie. Like, wasn't there a different version of Ronnie? Like, wasn't there like an Earth 2 version of Firestorm that was pretty similar to this? Not similar, but a little different from Firestorm from this Earth. Wasn't there like the Earth 2 Firestorm that was kind of like that? So, because I remember, if I remember correctly, like Earth 2 Firestorm, didn't Zoom kill Earth 2 Firestorm? I know he pretty much killed everyone else. But my point is, whatever the case may be, Ronnie's connection to Caitlyn / Frost would make sense if that's the case. Obviously, we know this thing can be manipulative. To be fair, it didn't just come to Frost, it came to Caitlyn specifically. So maybe that's why it stopped, because because before it was just drawn to her signature, but now it's like, wait, I see you. You're Caitlyn, but you're not Caitlyn. And so that's why it comes to talk to Caitlyn later, because Caitlyn and this thing have never been in the same room. This is it in Frost, but it recognized his signature, and I think it recognized the face. It was drawn and wants to devour the signature, but if it's Ronnie in there, maybe he saw Caitlyn's face. It's like, no, I don't want to eat you. And then, like, she attacked it, and so it responded in kind and attacked her. So what happened to him? Like, is it the circumstances of him being part of Firestorm combined with that whole, how he died in season 2? Like, was all that what created him? Like, why now, though? Why, after all these years, did that spawn? Is it a crisis thing of, like, something changed structurally that, it seems like Ronnie's death still played out the same way in this universe. Because it's kind of, I guess, very similar to how, like, Oliver made sure everything that made him who he was stayed the same, while making things that didn't affect, that have changed some things while not changing other things. So maybe that's kind of almost a similar thing of like, right, like that had an impact. I think that was more so in Oliver's life. I don't think that stretched out to the rest of like the continuity of like the other shows. I don't think so. And just might be like a happy, like, things played out differently type of way. Regardless, tangents and all that. I'm curious why now and in its way. And like I said, not unless it's this thing which can manipulate and play you, but saying exactly what Ronnie said, and then it didn't kill Caitlyn. It's stopping and it's talking to her. So there's something there. Cause wasn't he called Deathstorm, like on like Earth 2? Wasn't that his name? Instead of Firestorm, he was Deathstorm. So what changed that? I'm curious. I don't know. But circling back to it, I do like that at the heart of it all is kind of a very Frost-centric story around, like, the Snow family. Because, like I said, her mom's all gung-ho about, like, right, we can make this work, and Frost is about it too, but Caitlyn isn't. It's like, you are putting yourself in danger. Like, what you do is, yes, you're trying to save people's lives, but you kind of don't care about yourself in the process, which I'm like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting hero complex, which, back to Reed Schwarzer from Trails of Cold Steel, yes, I found an excuse to talk about Trails of Cold Steel. I won't shut up about these video games. I'm sorry, I can't help it. It is what it is. But yeah, I think I find that such an interesting character trait when, like, you kind of don't, like, right, it's not just your hero's sacrifice, it's like there's something deeper inside you where you're like, I am willing to sacrifice myself for other people because I don't care enough about my life. I don't think my life is worth it. If it means saving other people, then I'll die in the process. Which, Frost is like, right, I don't have a death wish. I don't know why everyone assumes I do. But talking to Caitlyn made Carla realize, like, right, my perspective on things was a little wrong. Like, yes, this is the right thing to do. We're saving lives. But Caitlyn was like, right, you're treating this situation like you only have one daughter. You're not treating Frost like your daughter, which she is. You're treating her more like an experiment, which I thought Frost would have felt a way about. But Frost was just kind of like, she didn't say anything about it. She's like, you know what, Carla, we're going to do this experiment. But after talking to her and saying, like, right, if anything happens to Frost, you're not just going to lose one daughter, you're going to lose another. And Carla realizes, like, right, I haven't been treating you like my daughter, and that it is wrong. That it's like your dad was the same way. And she's like, oh, a murderous psychopath? Thanks. It's like, no, I'm not talking about Icicle, I'm talking about Thomas. He was someone who put, the greater good kind of first. Like, he would kind of sacrifice everything, and lo and behold, what ended up happening? I mean, he ended up making you trying to protect Caitlyn, and obviously everything went wrong with the whole Icicle thing, but at the end of the day, there is a point where you can't go too far. It's fine and dandy to save people's lives and wanting to fight to do that, but sacrificing yourself in the process, you can't help anyone if you're dead. So there is this interesting thing, because for Frost, she looked at herself and was like, right, I was literally made to be Katie's bodyguard. It's like, yeah, but you're so much more. You're a young woman. You're able to live your life. You don't have to kind of pigeonhole yourself to just be this. Like, that's all there is to you. Because she was made to be just a bodyguard to protect Caitlyn, but she's grown into so much more. She still feels that need to, right, like my job, first and foremost, I might not just be Katie's bodyguard. I'll be everyone's bodyguard, That's a lot to kind of put on your own shoulders and kind of define and delineate that to be all you are. But it's like, no, you're so much more than that. So don't be so quick to just toss aside your life. You don't have to sacrifice yourself in the long run. And even Carla's like, right, you don't have to do this alone either, because I found out that some of the cryo genes, like when Icicle put me in that stasis like that, it awakened something in me. So I technically have the genes and potential to awaken ice powers too. So if it's you and me together, that way we're able to double up how much energy generated, so it's attracted to us. Plus, it makes it so that you don't have to go through this long. So I thought that was beautiful. That this whole experience did bring them together. They were absorbing the most of the black flame, but sadly, it ended up. I don't know how much more the spirit was pretty much at capacity already, but it's also because this thing was fighting, it was resisting. And so Carla was like, right, if it means sacrificing myself, it's all going to be worth it in the end. Because if she sacrifices herself, that way Frost doesn't have to do it. But in that moment, Frost decided to save her mom. It's about protect. It's like, right, we don't need to sacrifice any lives to do this. I also liked what Joe had said to convince Barry to be alone with this whole plan was, right, being a leader is sometimes you have to make the hard choices in that regard of obviously you're worried about Iris, so you're also worried about Frost in the process. But for him, it's like, as a leader, coming up with a plan where no one gets hurt, that's supposed to be my thing. And in this moment, he didn't have a plan other than this. But Joe told him, it's like, right, believe in the people you've trained. Frost has got a good head on her shoulders. Trust her when she says, let me do this. I've got this. Trust that you've trained her well enough that when your trainees are stepping up to do their hero thing, have their hero moment, be by their side, be there in the blink of an eye to help. So he gives them leeway to complete the plan. Even, Caitlyn ended up being on board. But luckily, Carla was okay, and so was Frost. Granted, it got away, but now they know, okay, so this thing is after this cryo energy. Once again, still don't know a lot of its intricacies of why it's doing this, what's at the heart of it. Once again, we now know potentially Ronnie is, but beyond that, we don't really know how this happened or why it happened and why it's manifesting in this particular form. If it is Ronnie, how did this happen? Once again, I'd assume how his circumstances of how he died combined with being half a firestorm did something like that. So, but like I said, there's also the element of, Frost and her mom. It's like, right. Carla never told Frost about it. It was like, that should be the number one person you turn to when it came to when you discovered oh, I have these cryo metagenes in me now. And it's like, right, because we don't, at first she was saying I was scared of the implications of it. I was wondering if she was saying she was scared of what it would mean to how different it would make her, or even was she scared she was going to go down the icicle route. But Frost is like, right, we never really do talk enough, so you were never comfortable enough to tell me. But it's like, right, let's change that, because it's like, I want to get to know you, Frost. There's so much of your life I've missed out on. I want to know everything. And it's like, you do? It's like, yes, because like I said, you are my daughter. I thought that was a beautiful moment, and I think it might have sparked a change inside of Frost as well, because I think it's like, right, I think she was still missing a little bit of that element, and now it's like, she always had Caitlin to feel like a sister, but now I think it well-rounds her to be like, no, it isn't just Caitlin's family, Carla's family too, she's my mom. So I think maybe she felt like that, but it was still there was still a little bit of a disconnect, and I think that connection has fully cemented itself now. Really quickly thinking about this whole Ronnie thing, I figured I should have known something, because also, we haven't delved into it a while. There have been implications of past stuff happening post Ronnie, relationship wise. I mean, granted, yes, there was the Hunter Zolomon thing, until that blew up in Caitlin's face. And it's like, oh, cool, you're Zoom, this killer speedster, awesome. And then there was the Julian thing, and then there was, once again, I talked about it. I thought there was going to be a total her and Ralph thing, if not her Frost and Ralph thing, whatever the case was going to be. Once again, I don't know if that was ever going to originally be the plan before everything went down, so it doesn't really matter. No point in living in what ifs. We're just living in what we have now. So now she's moving on a little bit, and now the timing is interesting that potentially Ronnie is back in her life just when she's trying to move on, because she's always had the hardest time moving on. Amongst anyone in the show, relationship-wise, it's kind of not worked out the most for Caitlin when it came to relationships, because she's always, I think the whole Ronnie thing has always made her probably super reluctant to ever really push forward with that, so. The other side of the episode has us in Coast City continuing to look into Tinya's situation, and they go to the agency, but the agency's like, right, there's a no contact aspect to this, which obviously can make you go wait, my mom doesn't even want me to find her to try and track her down? That means she doesn't even want me doubly more. It's doubly more, I know. Moving on. But I love that Sue ended up being the VP in this situation. MVP. I don't know why I dropped that. It turns out the person who's on the board of this is her Uncle Leroy. I wonder if that's her actual uncle, or is he a friend that was kind of a family friend who's an uncle. I love that she's yeah, helping an orphan. Yes, just like you. And I was oh, that's obviously sad but sweet. But it's yeah, typically people, usually what will get someone involved in starting an organization or being a big part of an organization of this magnitude or something like this, is if you went through it yourself. It usually comes from or either you have personal experience, whether it's someone close to you or you yourself had gone through it. So it's right, if you were someone that was an orphan and grew up in an adoption situation, of course you want to probably be a part of, you might be inclined to be a part of something like that. So they were able to get the information, because the lady behind this is I'd have to hear from my the board of directors, and it's yeah, here's Uncle Leroy, talk to him. And it's cool. It's okay. I love that she's yeah, sorry about that. And I was just no problem, you were just doing your job. I was I love how awkward this is. And the lady's just I need a break. And the moment she's done, I was why are we staying here? And then the camera stayed in on the room when she was going. I was what was that about? And then when she comes back, everything's going, and it's wait, what? I was that's weird. And it's right, it was a room where so it was early inklings that Iris's circumstances was kind of bleeding over. Once again, the way I was saying maybe time is moving around her, which kind of is the explanation. The point is time is fractured around her, so time is probably being reflected in a general area around Iris. So probably that room reverted to what it was maybe before they got all that stuff in the office, Or maybe it's just supposed to be like, no, she's devouring things and making them disappear. Like, it wasn't everything in the office, though. It's just, like, other stuff. So I think that's stuff that might have been put in there most recently. Like, all the stuff that was on the walls, against the walls, the chairs are all gone. So, like, fractured time, I think it's just, like, time around her, like, shifts into a certain pocket of, and it just randomly disappeared. Because also there's been things that have disappeared, too. So that's the thing of, like, is that supposed to mean, like, oh, she's absorbing said things time? Is she kind of like Legion? Spoiler. Is she a time demon right now, basically? Or is it she just like moving things across time? So it's like, oh, that brush, it ended up disappearing because like, oh, technically I'm sending it back to the, it got rewound in time or something like that. Just like she lost time and then all of a sudden like, wait, what? I lost a couple minutes. That's what I'm wondering. Like, is she technically moving things back and forth in time to some extent because time is fractured around her? Or is she just straight up, once again, eating time? Because so we didn't get to see it, but I'm assuming that's what happened there with the brush and now this. Because she was actually able to help Tenya find her mom, which is, Tenya was reluctant at first because it's like, right, what if my mom doesn't want me? I think that's probably anyone's greatest fear under those circumstances. And Iris opens up about her situation. And I figured that was kind of like the perfect thing was like, right, Tenya's going through a mother situation and Iris went through one as well. I think I referenced this last episode. I couldn't remember whether or not Iris had time with her mom or not. I think it was Wally that missed out on it. He didn't want to be around his mom at the time. I think not want to accept it, so he wasn't there at the end. He wasn't there when she died. I think, to be fair, once again, this was like a season 2 thing that I'm not quite remembering. I want to say it was because of that, I think. I don't remember now. I think Wally missed it and Iris didn't, because she talks about it like, no, I had that time with my mom. She's like, my mom was out of my life since I was a little girl, and when she came back into my life, I want nothing to do with her, but others convinced me, no, I needed to take this time, and I'm glad I did, because I almost missed out on that time of like telling my mom how I feel, how sad I was, how angry I was, but also at the same time how I loved her, and I couldn't explain why. And so for Iris, it's like, right, I almost missed out on that opportunity. And it's like, Tenya, I don't want you to go through that thing. I don't want you to go through that either. I want you to be able to say and do what you need to say, to give yourself some form of closure. Because if you don't do this and you miss this opportunity, you would regret it for the rest of your life. So they track her down, and it doesn't seem like her mom had any malicious intent in giving her up. It's like, I was 16. I was scared. I was young. My parents were furious at me, and they said that it was the better choice to make. That, and it's like, and I prayed and hoped that I lived my life. But like looking at her circumstances, I mean, it doesn't seem like, oh, she's living the life. It's just like she's living day by day, and it's like, right, I hoped that you were having a better life without me, and sadly, Tenya wasn't. She's like, I wanted you. I needed you in my life, Mom. I was going through a lot. I needed my mom. And she's like, I'm sorry. But before they could really fully connect, Iris, her time sickness activates. And the moment Tenya's mom, Renee, touches her, she disappears. So that's why I'm like, wait, what did you just do to her? Did you eat her time? Like, are you absorbing time nearby? Or did you, like, fracture her to a different point in time? It's like, what happened there? We still know not enough about Iris's condition, so I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.